A cheap black phone sat in the child seat of my shopping cart, and it was not mine. I noticed it at the dairy case, around midnight, reaching past it for a carton of eggs before my brain caught up with my hand. Little prepaid thing, the kind you buy for $19 at the same store I was standing in, scuffed, nothing in a case, no lock screen photo. Not mine. My phone was in my jacket pocket where it always is. I'd wandered off from my cart by the bakery to grab a loaf, come back, pushed it to dairy, and somewhere in there it had stopped being my cart and started being two identical green carts in an empty midnight store, swapped without my noticing. If you've never paid attention to it, every cart in a given store is the same cart, and people set them down and drift away from them constantly, to read a label, to grab the thing they forgot one aisle back, and they come back to a green cart with their stuff in it, and never once wonder if it's the green cart they left. Mine had a loaf of bread and a carton of milk in it, so did 3 others within 30 feet. I'd come back to the wrong twin without a flicker of doubt, and the only reason I ever found out was the phone, sitting where a toddler would sit, belonging to a woman I'd never see clearly until much later, who at that exact moment was pushing my bread and my milk toward the pharmacy and didn't know she'd set her whole escape plan down by the bakery. I was still holding the eggs, working out the mix-up, when the black phone lit up and buzzed against the metal seat, and a text slid up the screen from a contact saved as one letter. D. Whatever happens, don't go home tonight. Hang on, because I need to tell you who I am before I tell you what I did with that phone, since the whole thing turns on it. I'm going to ask you to subscribe in a second, but not yet. First, I need you to understand that I'm the person they pay to be calm when your life is coming apart, and that midnight in a grocery store I picked up a stranger's emergency and worked it like the worst call of my career, because that is the only thing I know how to do. Okay. Now subscribe if stories about the split-second choices ordinary people make for total strangers are the kind that stick with you. Because this one stuck a knife in me. And stay close. Because the clock in this story is real, and it's already running. And a woman I'd never met had about 15 minutes left before she made the worst decision of her life without knowing it. My name is Tara. I'm 31, and I work as a 911 dispatcher in a suburb of Sacramento. People don't think much about us. The voices on the other end, and that's fine. That's the job. You call on the worst night of your life, and a calm stranger answers and asks where you are, and keeps you breathing until the people with lights and sirens arrive, and then you hang up, and you never think about that voice again, and the voice goes to the next call. I'd done 11 hours of that voice the day this happened. A car wreck on the interstate, where I kept a 19-year-old talking about her dog until the medics reached her so she wouldn't look down at her own legs. A man whose father had stopped breathing, walking him through compressions with my own hands pressing the rhythm on my desk like I could push it down the line into his living room. A kid, maybe 10, who called because his parents were screaming at each other and he didn't know who else in the world to call. And I stayed with that kid, soft and steady, asking him about his video game, until a unit got there and the screaming stopped. You carry every one of them home a little. You learn to set them down, or you don't last. But you never set them down all the way. Then I clocked out, and my refrigerator was empty the way it gets when you work nights. So I went to the only place open, the 24-hour market off Florin Road, to buy eggs and bread and the small sad groceries of a person who lives alone and eats at strange hours. 8 years of headsets does something to your wiring that you can't undo when you take the headset off. You stop hearing the world the way other people hear it. In a restaurant, I clock the exits without meaning to. At a party, I half listen for the voice that's gone quiet and wrong. My friends find it exhausting. They tell me to turn it off, and I can't. Because the whole skill of the job is the part that doesn't turn off. The part that's always sorting the ambient noise of a normal day for the one thread that's actually a person in trouble. I'd carried that wiring into the grocery store the way I carry it everywhere, tired as I was, and it was about to be the only thing that mattered. That's the only reason I was there at midnight to grab the wrong cart. 11 hours of other people's emergencies, and then one more, waiting for me in a child seat. I'll be honest about my first instinct, because it wasn't heroic. My first instinct was annoyance. Somebody's lost phone, somebody's wrong number, not my problem. I'll drop it at the customer service desk and finish my shopping and go home and sleep for 9 hours. I actually started pushing the cart toward the front of the store to do exactly that. And then the phone buzzed again. Are you out? Did you get out? Please answer me. Then, 10 seconds later, Mia, please. He came back early. Do not go to the apartment. I stopped in the middle of the cereal aisle. Because that, right there, is a sound I know. Not the words, the shape of them. The shape of a person on the other end of a line who is frightened for someone they love and getting no answer. I hear that shape 40 times a shift. In the half second before a caller can get the words out, the raw texture of somebody's fear for another human being, and you learn to recognize it the way a mechanic recognizes a bad engine, by the sound before they ever lift the hood. Whoever D was, they were not texting a wrong number, and they were not pulling a prank, and they were not mildly worried. That was somebody's whole heart hammering, in lowercase, into a phone that wasn't being answered. They were trying to reach a woman named Mia, tonight, urgently, about getting out and not going to an apartment because someone called he had come back early, and Mia was not answering, and the reason Mia was not answering was that Mia's phone was sitting in my cart in my hand in the cereal aisle while I decided whether she was my problem. She became my problem in that second. I want to tell you I agonized over it, but I didn't, because the agonizing had been trained out of me 1,000 calls ago. You don't get to decide whether the emergency is yours. The emergency is whoever's on the line, and Mia was on the line now, through me, whether I'd asked for it or not. People ask me sometimes how dispatchers don't fall apart, taking the worst calls all night, and the honest answer is that the job hands you something to do. Always, immediately, and doing the something is what holds you together. You are never just hearing the horror, you are working it, gathering the where, and the who, and the how many, talking the breathing slower, sending the help. The doing is the floor under your feet. Standing in that cereal aisle, I felt the floor arrive the way it does at work, the panic of the situation organizing itself into a list of next actions. And the moment a thing becomes a list of next actions, it stops being able to swallow you. I didn't feel brave. I felt busy, which for me is the same as safe. Let me lay out what I understood, fast, standing there, because I had to build the picture the way I build it at work, from fragments, in seconds. 2 identical carts, mine and Mia's. We'd swapped somewhere near the bakery in the last few minutes, which meant Mia was almost certainly still in the store or had just walked out, and she now had my cart, with my eggs and my bread and, I realized with a small cold drop, my reusable tote with a CVS receipt in it that had my name on it but nothing useful about her. Mia had left her phone in her cart, which a woman fleeing something does, because her hands are full and her mind is full, and she's running on the same fight-or-flight chemicals that make you set your keys down in the freezer. She didn't know she'd lost it. She thought her lifeline was in her cart. And her sister, or her friend, or whoever D was screaming into that lifeline from somewhere else in the city, "He came back early, do not go to the apartment," to a woman who could not hear it. If Mia went home tonight, she was walking into whatever D was so afraid of. And the only person on earth who currently knew that was a tired dispatcher holding a stranger's phone next to a wall of cereal. I made 3 decisions in about 4 seconds, the way you triage a call, and I'm going to walk you through them, because every single one mattered. First, I texted D back, not pretending to be Mia, because impersonating a person in a crisis you don't understand is how you get someone killed. I kept it true and short, the way I'd want a stranger to keep it with me. This isn't Mia. I found this phone in a shopping cart at the Florin Road Market a few minutes ago. I think she's still here and doesn't know she lost it. I'm trying to find her right now. I'm a 911 dispatcher, off duty. Tell me what's happening so I can help. That last part was deliberate. When you're drowning, the single most stabilizing thing a voice can give you is a reason to believe it knows what it's doing. I'm a dispatcher wasn't bragging. It was a rope. I needed Denise to stop spiraling and start feeding me usable information. And people calm down a quarter step when they think a professional has the line. Even a professional who is currently standing in a cereal aisle in yesterday's clothes. Second, I left my groceries. Just abandoned the cart, the wrong one, Mia's cart, in the aisle, and started moving through the store fast, scanning. Because the most useful thing I could do was put Mia's actual phone back in Mia's actual hands before she walked out the door and drove toward an apartment her own sister was begging her to avoid. Third, I called it in. Not as a citizen. I called the non-emergency line for my own dispatch center. Got a colleague I knew, Renata, and gave her the shape of it in the clipped shorthand we use with each other. Possible DV in progress. Female fleeing. I've got her phone. Attempting to locate. May need a welfare check on an address I don't have yet. Stand by. Renata didn't ask me why I was working a call on my night off. Renata just said copy, standing by, and started a log. Because that's what we do. We keep the log, we keep the line, we stand by. Knowing she was on the other end steadied me the way I try to steady the people I take calls from. Even the calm voice needs a calm voice sometimes. D texted back while I was speed-walking the frozen aisle. The words came in pieces, a person typing through panic. Oh God. Oh, thank you. I'm her sister, Denise. She's leaving her boyfriend tonight. We planned it for when he had his shift. I have a room ready for her an hour away. She was supposed to grab a few things and go, and not look back. He texted me 20 minutes ago looking for her. He's off work early, he's heading to the apartment. If she goes back there for her stuff, he will be there. Please. He's put her in the hospital before. Please find her. He's put her in the hospital before. I have read that sentence, or heard it, more times than I can count in my job, and it never once stops landing like a slap. People imagine the dangerous moment in a situation like this is the leaving, and it is. But the specific trap is the going back. The one more trip for the one more thing. And the people who hurt their partners know it. They count on the pull of the half-packed life. And far too often, they're waiting at the apartment when she comes back for it. I texted Denise back, I've got you, I'm on it. Keep this phone in your hand. And I started moving faster. Here is the thing about looking for one specific frightened woman in a grocery store at midnight. You don't look for a face, because you don't know the face. You look for the shape of fleeing. I'd talked enough people through enough worse nights to know what it looks like from the outside, even when the person thinks they're hiding it. Alone, moving with purpose but not browsing. Maybe a bag that's packed wrong, too full or too hasty. Checking exits. The particular held-together stillness of somebody running on adrenaline and trying to look normal. I went up and down the aisles fast, eyes doing the work my voice usually does. A stock clerk pricing yogurt watched me go by twice and asked if I needed help finding something. And I almost laughed, because yes, I was looking for something. I just couldn't describe it to him without sounding insane. Produce, empty. Bread, empty. Just my abandoned cereal aisle cart sitting crooked where I'd left it. Health and beauty, a man buying cold medicine who was not who I was looking for. The store was nearly dead at that hour, which cut both ways. Fewer people to search through, but fewer people for a frightened woman to disappear into. And I kept one eye on the front registers the whole time, because the nightmare version of this was Mia walking out the automatic doors with my cart and my eggs, and her plan in ruins while I checked the wrong aisle. The phone buzzed twice more in my hand while I searched. Denise, unraveling. Is she there? Do you see her? I typed back with my thumb without slowing down. Looking. Almost. Hang on. And I felt the absurd intimacy of it. This woman an hour away pouring her panic into a device in a stranger's fist. Trusting me. A name she'd known for 90 seconds. With the most precious thing she had. Halfway through the search, I caught movement at the front of the store. A woman with a cart heading for the registers. And my heart climbed into my throat, because if that was Mia checking out, she'd be in the lot and gone before I could cross the store. I cut up the main aisle fast, almost jogging, drawing a look from the cashier, and it wasn't her. Just a tired woman buying cat food at midnight. And the relief and the renewed panic hit me at the same time, and canceled out into a kind of focused dread. She was here. She had to still be here. A person doesn't abandon a half-full escape and check out in the time it took me to search 4 aisles. I made myself slow down and think like the layout of a store instead of a panicking person. And I asked myself where a woman who'd just remembered something would go. A woman about to take a long drive. And the answer walked me straight to the pharmacy section. I found Mia there, in the back corner by the blood pressure machine, a woman in her late 20s standing very still in front of a shelf she wasn't seeing, with a duffel bag in the cart, my tote sitting on top of her hastily grabbed things, and her hand pressed flat against her own chest like she was holding her heart in. I knew it was her before I knew anything. You can't fake that stillness. I'm not going to pretend the next part was smooth, because how do you walk up to a terrified stranger who's mid-escape and not become one more thing she has to be afraid of? I went slow. I kept my hands where she could see them, one of them holding up the black phone. I stopped a few feet away, more than arm's reach, and I kept my voice in the register I use on the line, low and even and certain. The register that tells a person in free fall that the falling is about to stop. Hi, my name's Tara. I think we grabbed each other's carts by the bakery. I tipped the phone toward her. This is yours. You left it in the seat. Your sister Denise has been trying to reach you for the last 20 minutes, and I need you to hear what she's been trying to say. But take a breath first. You're okay. Nobody followed you. It's just me. Her face did about 6 things at once. Confusion, then a flash of pure animal fear at the word sister. At the realization that her phone, her plan, her lifeline, had been adrift in a stranger's hands, and then her eyes went to the screen as I held it out, and she saw the wall of unread messages from Denise, and the fear changed into something worse, because she was doing the math I'd already done. 20 minutes of warnings she hadn't gotten. For a second I thought she might bolt. People in that state run from help as fast as from harm, because everything that approaches them is a threat until proven otherwise, and I was a stranger who knew her sister's name and had been holding her secret phone. So I did the thing that works, which is to give a frightened person something small and concrete to do, instead of a feeling to manage. Don't take the phone from me yet if you don't want to, I said. Just look. Read Denise's last 3. I'll hold it. You don't have to trust me. You just have to read your sister's words. That she could do. Trusting me was too big. Reading Denise was the right size. She leaned in and read, and I watched it land. And the first thing she said, in a whisper, was the thing that told me how close it had been. I was going to go back. For my mom's necklace. I left it at the apartment. I was going to swing back and get it before I left town. It's the only thing I have of hers. Her mother's necklace. She was 40 minutes from a new life an hour away, and she'd been about to detour through the one place on earth she could not go, for a small gold thing that mattered more than her own safety, because that's what these situations do. They make you weigh your life against a keepsake, and they're banking on the keepsake winning. If her phone had been in her own cart, she'd have seen Denise's texts and known he was on his way. Because it was in mine, she'd been about to drive straight to him. "What's your name?" I asked, though I knew it, because I wanted her saying her own true things out loud, anchoring herself. "Mia," she said. "Mia. I'm not going to touch you and I'm not going to rush you. But I need you to hear me say one thing clearly, okay? He is at the apartment, or he's headed there right now. Your sister isn't guessing. He told her he's off work and looking for you. So the necklace is not happening tonight. Not tonight. Look at me. Your mother would rather you walk out of here alive than die in a parking lot wearing her necklace. You know that's true." Something cracked in her face when I said her mother would rather. She nodded, fast. The nod of someone letting go of a thing they'd been gripping. And tears came, and I let them. Because tears are pressure leaving a system, and you do not stop them. You just stay until they pass. "How do you know what to say?" she asked me, wiping her face with the back of her hand, half a laugh in it. The strange, small laugh people find at the bottom of fear. "You sound like you've done this before." "I have," I said. "Just usually I'm on a phone and I never get to see the person. It's my job. I talk to people on the worst night of their life and I keep them company until help shows up." I held the burner out to her again, and this time she took it, her fingers closing around it like it was warm. "Tonight I just happened to be standing next to it. Your sister did the hard part. She built you a whole door out, an hour away, a room, a plan. All you have to do is walk through it and not stop at the apartment on the way. Can you do that for her? For your mom?" "Yeah," she said. "Yeah, I can do that." And I watched her decide it, watched her shoulders change. And that's the moment I'll keep, not the danger. That one. A stranger choosing her own life in the pharmacy aisle of a midnight grocery store, with a phone clutched in her hand. "You're not going back to the apartment," I said, once the worst of the crying had passed. "Not tonight, not for anything. Your sister has a room for you an hour from here, and that's where you're going, and I'm going to help you get out of here and on the road. That part's mine now. You just drive." So I did the thing I do, the only thing I really know how to do. I stayed with her. I didn't leave her side in that store. I texted Denise the plan in real time, the way I keep a caller's family looped in. She's with me, She's safe. She's not going to the apartment. She's coming to you. Give me 40 minutes. I called Renata back and gave her the apartment address that Mia now told me in a small, flat voice. And a patrol unit did a quiet pass, no lights, just eyes, and the word came back through Renata in the clipped way that somehow makes it worse. Subject's vehicle on scene. Male party observed entering the unit. He was there. His truck was in the lot. He was inside the apartment, waiting. Exactly where Denise said he'd be. Exactly where Mia had been about to drive for a necklace. Hearing it confirmed did something to Mia's face that I won't forget. The specific horror of a near miss made real. The understanding of precisely how close the other version of the night had come. I walked her out, but not the front. Front doors are bright and obvious and face the lot. And on the off chance anyone was watching for her, I wasn't giving them a clean look. I flagged the overnight security guard, a big, tired man named Sal who took about 4 seconds to understand the situation and turn into exactly the kind of help you'd want. And he walked us out a side service exit to where Mia's car was parked, and he stood there with his arms crossed and his radio out while she got in and started it. A wall of a man making himself useful, and I have thought about him too, because he didn't have to care either, and he did. 2 people that night, me and Sal, neither of us anybody special, just a tired dispatcher and a tired guard, who happened to be standing where the emergency landed. And between us, we made a corridor of safety out of nothing but attention and a side door. That's most of what protecting somebody actually is. Not heroics. Just people deciding to stand where they're needed for the 10 minutes it takes. Before she pulled out, Mia rolled the window down and looked at me for a second like she wanted to say something the size of the night, and couldn't find it, and I told her she didn't need to. Just drive, text me when you're clear, go be safe. She nodded and rolled the window up. Then I followed her. 10 miles up the road toward her sister's, my headlights steady in her rear view, the one time in her life, maybe, that the lights behind her were a comfort instead of a fear. We didn't talk, just 2 cars moving through the dark, and I kept a careful distance and watched my mirrors as much as the road ahead, because the dispatcher in me wasn't going to fully exhale until she was past the county line and out of the radius of the man in that apartment. The burner buzzed on my passenger seat, where she'd insisted I keep it until she was clear of town, and the text said, "You can peel off now. I've got it from here. Denise is on the phone with me. Thank you." I don't have words. I flashed my lights once, turned off at the next exit, and sat in the fluorescent wash of a gas station parking lot, and that's when the shaking finally came for me. The delayed kind. The kind that waits politely until the call is over, because it knows you can't afford it while you're working. I sat there and let my hands shake on the wheel for a while, and then I drove home, to a refrigerator that was still empty, because I'd left my groceries in a cart in a cereal aisle, and I have never once minded that. That night sat with me strangely for weeks, and I want to be honest about why, because it's not the simple triumphant thing you'd expect. I was glad, of course I was glad. Every cell in me was glad she got out. But underneath the gladness was a cold draft I couldn't quite close off, which was the knowledge of how thin the margin had been. Not thin like a close call in a movie, where the hero's skill makes the difference. Thin like a coin landing. A cart swapped or not swapped. A dispatcher in the store or an accountant. 4 seconds of choosing one way instead of the other. I do this for a living. I have systems and training, and a whole center full of people standing by. And even so, the thing that saved Mia was mostly an accident that happened to fall to a person equipped to not waste it. That's not comforting. That's the opposite of comforting. It means most of the Mias don't get a swapped cart and a trained stranger. And the only thing any of us can actually control is the 4 seconds, the choosing, the picking the phone up off the seat. So I've made a kind of peace with it by deciding to be, as often as I can manage, the person who picks it up, on the clock and off it, because that's the only part of the coin I get to wait. I never saw Mia again. That's how it usually goes, in my work and in this. You hold someone through the worst minutes of their life, and then they go live the rest of it, and you're a voice they half remember. Denise texted me a few weeks later from Mia's new number, just to say Mia was safe, settled, an hour away in a town he didn't know, that there was a protective order now, and a lawyer, and the slow, brave work of starting over. She told me more than that, actually, over a couple of long texts, because people need to give the story to someone, and I'd become the someone. Mia had been planning the leaving for months, the way it has to be planned when it's dangerous. In secret, in pieces, a bag stashed at a coworker's, a little cash held back, the date set for a night he'd be on shift until 2. The grocery store was supposed to be the last stop, a few things for the road, and then the highway, and gone. His shift getting cut short was the one variable nobody could control, the thing that turns a careful plan into a coin flip. Denise had been the whole support system, the room an hour away, the steady voice. And she said the worst 20 minutes of her life were the ones where she was screaming into a phone that wasn't being answered, certain her sister was already walking back into that apartment, not knowing the phone was riding around a grocery store in the hands of a stranger who happened to know what the silence meant. She also told me Mia got the necklace back, eventually, through a civil standby arrangement where an officer escorts you to collect your belongings, and that detail is the one that made me cry, in a way the dangerous night somehow hadn't. She got out, and a few weeks later she got her mother back too, the little gold piece of her, and she didn't have to trade her life for it. Both halves of that. She got to be safe, and she got to keep the thing that mattered, and she only got both because the order of operations went right, because somebody made her leave first and collect later, which is the whole grim lesson of these nights compressed into a sentence. The stuff can be recovered, you cannot. A necklace can wait in an apartment for a police escort. A life cannot wait for anything. Get the person out, and let the gold catch up later. And most of the time the gold does catch up. A few days later I went back to work and put the headset on and took the next call, and the one after that, a fender bender, a smoke alarm, a lost dog somebody was weirdly upset about, the ordinary tide of a shift. Nobody at the center made a big thing of the grocery store night. We don't, really. You handle what comes to you, and you log it, and you take the next one. Because the next one is always coming, and it doesn't care that your last one shook you. But I carried Mia back to that desk with me, the way I carry all of them. And now when the worst calls come in, the ones where someone's fleeing in the dark and not sure they'll make it, I have a face for the voice. I have a pharmacy aisle and a duffel bag and a woman choosing her own life. It helps, weirdly, to have seen one all the way through to the part where she drives away. I've thought a lot about the cart swap. 2 identical green carts by the bakery, a 1 in 1,000 mix-up, a 1 in 1,000 mix-up, and the only reason I was even in that store at midnight was that I'd just come off 11 hours of other people's emergencies with an empty fridge. If I'd shopped an hour earlier, if I'd grabbed my own cart, if I'd done the easy thing and dropped the phone at customer service and gone home to my 9 hours of sleep. So many small hinges, and a woman's whole life swinging on them, and most of them were pure luck. For a while the luck of it kept me up. I'd lie awake doing the other math, the version where I was a podiatrist or an accountant or anybody who hadn't spent 8 years learning to hear the shape of fear in a stranger's first syllable, somebody who'd have read Whatever Happens, Don't Go Home Tonight and thought, wrong number, weird, and dropped the phone in the lost and found bin, and gone home, and slept fine, and never known that an hour up the highway a woman drove back to an apartment for a necklace and didn't drive out again. That version exists. It exists every single day, in 1,000 small refusals, in all the moments somebody feels the wrongness of a thing and decides it isn't theirs to carry. I'm not above that version. I almost was that version, for about 4 seconds in a cereal aisle. What saved Mia wasn't that I'm a good person. It's that I'd been trained, by 10,000 calls, to not be allowed to look away, and the training held when it counted. But not all of it was luck. The luck got the phone into my cart. The luck does not pick the phone up off the seat after it buzzes. That part wasn't luck. That part was a choice, the same choice that's sitting under every one of these stories, about whether a stranger's emergency is your emergency, and that one I got to make, and you'd get to make it too. So here's the only thing I'll leave you with, and it comes from the headset, not from a greeting card. Every shift, an emergency I didn't ask for and didn't cause, comes through to me, a stranger on the worst night of their life, and the entire job, the whole thing, is just this. You answer the call that comes to you. You don't get to pick it. It rings, or it buzzes in a shopping cart, and either you pick it up and stay on the line, or you set it down and tell yourself it was somebody else's to answer. Most of the harm I've witnessed in 10 years on the line slipped through in the gap of somebody deciding it wasn't their call. It's always somebody's call. Sometimes, by pure dumb luck and a swapped cart, it's yours. and the only question that's ever really yours to answer is whether you pick it up. If you felt that, if you've ever been the one who picked up the call that wasn't technically yours, or wished someone had picked up yours, subscribe so the next one of these reaches the person who needs the nudge. And then do something for me in the comments. Tell me about a time a total stranger stepped into your worst moment and stayed. We don't say thank you to those people nearly enough, and tonight feels like a good night to start. I'll be down there reading every one of them, because the ones who pick up the call that isn't theirs are my favorite people in the world, and I suspect a lot of you are them and don't even know it.